Greeting everyone. I'd like to say a special greeting to my sister Naomi Tutu, and thank you for coming here and supporting this noble foundation in their work. And we honor you and your family for the courage that it takes to stand up when other people are afraid. So thank you so much. I would like each of you to turn to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, we are all from Africa. Africa is the root of all civilization. I may be a branch or a graft, but we must keep the root watered. Or the tree of life will die." And so it's important to understand how interrelated our lives are, and how important it is to remember that each person, each group of people was placed in a certain place for a reason. And when I tell you about the work of the International Leadership Institute, what I say first is, to God be the glory. Because God is our travel agent, He makes everything happen, and we are servant leaders working with Him, but working in partnership with some powerful, powerful women and girls and civic leaders around the world. And many times the work that we do through the International Leadership Institute, sometimes in Kenya, they say, "Here comes Judge Lange, she's going to make some noise." And it's kind of like your mother coming to your house and all of a sudden you're getting the dust from under the bed and you're getting things straightened out. But it's really you doing all the work. It's not your mother. And so our partnerships, our collaborations, where the people in the countries where we work, they lead, they establish the vision, and they are accountable for the transformations that they have determined that they want to happen. So sometimes, as you know, when your mother comes to visit, you're kind of sitting down to rest and you need a little inspiration, or there's somebody down the street that you really would prefer that your mother talked to rather than you, because of the political situation or because of other reasons. So many times through the International Leadership Institute, we serve as a voice in tight places where the conversation has ceased, or the conversation needs to go to another level, and it takes a strong voice to send it to another level. We had a conversation a few years back in Zimbabwe, and I think all of you know what a sorry state things are still in Zimbabwe. And we were talking about HIV, and the women wanted the ability to not have sex with their husbands if they believed that their husbands were infected. And the men in this particular group were very opposed to that. So what the women were doing was pushing for a marital rape law to protect them. And the women said, when the husband leaves the home and goes to get another wife, and then the baby dies, the new baby dies, the other wife dies, and the husband comes back home, you can be pretty sure he's carrying a package that I don't want. And I will cook for him, I will clean for him, I'll do everything a wife should do, but I don't want to die. And the men were saying, if I die, why shouldn't she? And so there was no leverage that the women could make to have the women get this law passed with the men's objection. That's the kind of thing that our African sisters face in many places. It may not be as plainly spoken as it was by the men in Zimbabwe, but it's still a situation that they face. We just came back last week from Kenya, going to Kisumu, Eldoret, and to Nairobi. We had planned to go to Garissa, and our sisters in northeastern Kenya, a group called Womankind, they're like, Judge Lange, you're not going to Garissa. We just had 2 terrorist bombings, and I'm not going to be responsible for you, and hit the reply to all button. So, of course, being the lawyer I am, we couldn't go to Garissa. So the Garissa people came to us in Nairobi to talk about their needs and their challenges, and to also talk about the effort of the women in Garissa to have more rights with regard to voting, more opportunities to stand for election, and the group in Womankind that we're working with is also trying to educate women and girls about circumcision. And in this Muslim community in northeastern Kenya, the religious leaders have agreed with Womankind that this is not a religious practice, that it is not a Somali practice, that it is an Arab cultural practice that they should be free to discard. So legislation and public policy in the Muslim community in Kenya is attempting to get girls to defer a choice of circumcision until they're 18, where they could look at this as an adult and not be forced at 3, 4, 5 years old or younger to be circumcised. And so Sophia Abdi Noor is a person we've been working with for more than 12 years in northeastern Kenya. She's a circumcised woman who had approximately 4 or 5 years old. One of her friends died during the process from bleeding, and she talked to us about the importance of fighting this practice. She said when a circumcised woman has her wedding night, it's her husband who cuts the stitches, and if he's not careful, she may bleed to death on her wedding night. And this is a practice that we want to bring out in the open to groups like this. There's more than Muslims in Kenya who are practicing circumcision, so it's many, many people where this is still going on. And many times when people travel to other countries, they take the practice with them. So it's something that we want to inform ourselves on, but we also want to give people a solid foundation so they can make a decision rather than just go on mob hysteria getting circumcised. So that's some of what Womankind does in Kenya, one of our partners.